what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome back to another episode of Found Footage Fridays with my co-host, Tom Reimer.
Happy to be back. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Feels like it.
Yes. So, Tom is back from AuthorCon, and...
The weary traveler returns.
That's right. And we, so last week, or this past week, was our 5 bigger topper ratings. What am I even trying to say?
Top five?
Top 5 based on ratings and feelings in general. And so I thought, that's always good, I think, to do those on occasion anyway, because then it gives people an opportunity to see some of the things we've talked about in a shorter span. Because Ron even said he's our number 1 fan, in case you didn't know.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron. And so he even said, I think that even though he watches our episodes, he did end up adding some more to his list of watches. So if you haven't watched that, that was last week. So I'll try to remember to link it, but I'm really bad about that. So anyway, so today we are talking the found footage movie called The Curse of Aurore. And so this is important to mention. This is one that is on a Dread Central's top 5 scariest found footage films ever.
Where did you find that? Is this a new list?
It's not that old, I'll be honest.
Okay.
Which I'm sure we will get to. If I can go back and find it, I should be able to find it, because I think I took a screenshot of it before I messaged you. I will try to remember to link that in the description for anyone interested in checking out the other 4.
Yep.
But yeah, the short version of a synopsis for this one is 3 filmmakers rent one of the filmmakers' grandmother's house out. They go and stay for a while, and their attempt to make a found footage horror movie. Right?
Yep.
Is it? I don't know. This says.
I don't know. I don't know. It's supposed to be found. No, they don't say found footage.
Okay, so sorry, horror.
But I mean, considering the quality of the equipment they're using.
I think I just assumed. Yeah. So, and they essentially they decide to do it around this local lore around a child murder of a little girl named Aurore.
Yep, and it takes place in Canada. Right? I don't know off the top of my head if it's actually a Canadian, film.
I'm not sure.
Don't remember. It does take place in Canada, and off the top of my head, the only found footage movie I can think of that takes place in Canada.
At least that I've seen, I think.
And features what I feel like is a really common trope in found footage, meaning 2 guys and 1 lady, 1 woman. Is that am I wrong? Is that very common? That's very common. Okay. I felt watching that, I was like, I've seen these 3 before. Not a negative, it worked, but
it does seem to be a common thing. Maybe it's a Blair Witch recipe. Maybe people just
that's where I'm going. Yeah.
Kind of go to that, but no, you're right. It is normally.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yes, heavy on the lore, which
lots of lore. Yes.
Lots of lore. And I would say, as far as found footage movies go, on the longer side, right? Right?
Yes,
especially when you add in the commercials on Tubi.
Oh, that's true. You do have to factor that in. So this is on Tubi. You do have to factor that in when you sit down to watch anything on Tubi. Oh, it's only an hour and a half, but it's going to have 45 minutes or more of commercials. You have to factor that in. Yeah.
So is there anything else you want to say before we do ratings and then spoil this thing?
No, I think that's that pretty much that works for me as a summarization. Yeah,
I will say I had never heard of this one before you brought it to my attention. Not once.
No, me neither. No, this wasn't one. This was not one I had ever heard of. That was one of the things that I think intrigued me, but I'm pretty sure the other four on the list are either ones we've already talked about or ones we've talked about. Even if we
Yep.
didn't do an episode, we know about them and we've talked about them before. So this was the one that stuck out because I had never heard of it. And when you put scariest on something, I'm like, ooh, intrigued.
Seriously. And, I mean, interestingly, the second after I watched this, I saw somebody else posting about it. So, and it just weird coincidence.
It was weird. Yeah.
All right, let's do these ratings.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Or do you want to go first?
Sure.
I'll go first. Okay. So I actually did like this movie. I can't tell if you like it or not. I have suspicions. But I did enjoy this movie. As I mentioned, one of my biggest things about it might have been the length of this movie.
But it was too long. Yeah.
But I did like it. I like the lore. I'm gonna rate this movie maybe surprisingly high. I'm gonna rate this movie an 8 out of 10 tapes. You almost screamed at the camera right then. You're restraining yourself right now. No. I like this movie. This was a solid found footage film, I think.
An 8?
Okay, you disagree. It's okay. We've been on the same page a lot
lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we will be next week. So yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna give my rating and then I'm gonna dive into why.
Okay.
So this is a solid 5 for me. Very middle ground. Too long.
Definitely too long.
Too many ghosty ghouly things.
I actually agree with that.
I think that I got desensitized because we'll go into more of this when we talk spoilers. I messaged you when I saw the first one. I was like, ooh. But by the third or fourth time I saw it, I was like, meh. Like,
there was like one scene where it was like 10 in a row. Yeah,
it's too much. I did some positives were I loved the lore. You know, both Tom and I are big fans of lore based things. I loved this concept of the unique name, and it's not that we haven't seen content creating, filmmaking things before, but I really liked the frame of this story. These friends who don't get to work together that often. They're really trying to make money off their movies, and they're really struggling with being able to do so. Which I'm sure there's a specific thing in the movie we'll probably talk about in a little bit. So the reason for filming I felt was pretty legitimate. After things started to get a little weird, they were like, "Oh, we've got it! Like we're going to make money on this." I thought the acting was believable. The relationships were believable. It did another thing that I don't like. Just because you have a female character, filmmakers, does not mean someone has to be secretly in love with them. I hate that trope.
Got it.
I hate it. I am a sucker for, you know what? I'm good with love interests, romantic storylines. I'm fine with that. However, I also really appreciate genuine platonic friendships, brother and sister relationships, other family relationships. I get really tired of, oh, there's a pretty girl. Someone's got to be in love with her. Why? For what reason?
It didn't add anything. It didn't add anything.
What was the chest? Chest was the other one. They're like getting ready to die, and he's like, "Just tell her how you feel." Now it's not the time. Like, you know. So anyway, so that was another. So it just had some. I think I wouldn't say necessarily solid found footage film, but I would say it's a fine middle ground to watch on Tubi if you enjoy found footage, if you like haunting stories. I think it's worth watching.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably not as good as I'm rating it, but that's how much I enjoyed watching it.
That's part.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the point. And and I really do like the paranormal.
I know, and I do too. Yeah.
And there was something about this place that they went to that, you know, the remoteness of it, that it just and then obviously stuff that we're going to spoil
Yeah.
that really did work for me. And I really was sucked into it pretty quickly.
Yeah. I will say, kind of touching on that, I will say that this was the first one in a long time that had me pretty early as far as my attention.
Mhm.
Even ones we've
Yep.
been liking lately, it's taken like halfway through the thing for me to care.
Yeah.
I think the only exception being the Dybbuk box. That one I think had me in the beginning. But most of the time, because found footage is usually such a slower build, it takes me some time to get acclimated to the story and the characters and stuff. But this one was engaging. This kept my attention the entire time.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's a certain flow that felt very similar to a lot of found footage movies. You have these filmmakers in their car driving somewhere, and for whatever reason, they're filming each other as they're driving to the place they're going. But that, just like that framework at the beginning of these movies, always works for me. And even though it can get really stale, it's tried and true. And I was pulled in pretty quickly. And then once they get to the place they're going, there were certain things that happened right away that I was like, whoa, I like that. So
yeah, that happened to me too. Yeah.
So spoilers.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. What do we want to start with spoilers?
So this place they go in Canada, it definitely had one of those remote, weird, small towns with a big secret kind of feel.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree.
And I love those kinds of movies where you're trying to figure out, is this supernatural? Is this a cult? Is this, a religious thing? You know what I mean? Like, definitely was sort of that in that universe, or those universes. Starting out, I think what grabbed me early was a camera trick. I guess we'll call it that. The little ghosty that you see
in the bedroom.
But it was, that first one was so well done because the camera is just like moving past the door and you don't expect to see it. And it was so fast that you're like, wait, did I just see that? And I'm sure a lot of people rewind right there to see if it was just a weird lighting thing or shadow thing.
Yeah.
That was so cool. And if they had just done that and maybe like
spaced some stuff out
once or twice more, that would have been really effective.
And I think I also really love when we see things that our protagonists don't see. So like they don't react to this, they don't see it. Like, and there's even that part where they go through the footage later and they never even go back to that footage. They go back to other things, but they don't go back to that moment. And that there's something about that, like knowing what, like we can see something that they can't see. It's like, there's just something about that that's like, oh, And I will say the other thing, adding to the sense of like remote, there is something, and this kind of goes back to like my feelings on like The Shining, for example. Whenever you add snow, for some reason, that always makes me feel more isolated. Like there's just something about it that feels more isolating, and that works in a few other movies as well, that aren't necessarily found footage, but that worked really well for me with this too. Because I was like, ooh, like you just feel like them having the car trouble because they were like have a hard time steering. Like all of that stuff worked well because the snow makes things difficult. And I just thought that I liked that part too. I thought that was like smart because it's just something about it that just makes you feel even more separated from reality.
And on that note, something that really worked as well, that same sort of feeling, is that it's really remote. It's cold, it's dark, and they don't speak the language. Everybody speaks French, which they don't really speak. One of them speaks a little bit of French, but not really. And so it's clear there's a lot of people are like yelling at them. Clearly, you get the feeling that people don't want them there in that village or that town, but you don't know why, unless you are sitting at home speaking French, which I was not. and I'm not.
And
So
because there's no subtitles. We are just in the dark about what's being said as the main characters.
yeah, which was more isolating.
I didn't even think about that. You're totally right though. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It was really cool.
I think like with the ghost stuff, it's weird to me because like I'm thinking, okay, so we see the first ghost we see does not look like a little girl. It looks like a grown up.
Yep.
But then the ghost we see most of the rest of the time is a little girl. And so I'm like, we get this backstory of, and you just tell me what your interpretation of this was, because I think it can maybe just be something I'm not picking up on. But, the whole point is the little girl.
Yep.
But the story ends up not really being about just the little girl. So do we see the little girl because like they're manifesting her because they're talking about her more, or is it because the little girl was the last person that was killed? Like, what is the tie-in to the end cultish stuff versus like the story of this little girl that was killed? Like, I'm assuming she was obviously part of the sacrifice or whatever, but why are we seeing so much of her? Because she didn't die in that house. She died somewhere else.
Right. Unless it definitely supposed to be her we were seeing, or were we just seeing
another?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were seeing just family members, if we were seeing random ghosts. That part wasn't clear to me either. Yeah.
Okay. So I was okay. So I'm not alone in that. And
then again, I liked it less and less the more of those we saw. The more I was like, okay,
yeah,
like did I just see that effect was really cool. But when it was just like sitting there and there for an extended period, also you're like, oh, that effect isn't as cool as I thought either, because I'm getting a nice long look at it. Things like that. It didn't pull me out too much, but like, yeah.
The other moment like that did work really well for me was the mirror. I did like that.
Yes.
When the light flickers and the mirror goes dark and you see that face come up.
Yes, that was
cool. I knew the light flickering was drawing our attention, and that's fine. There's got to be a way to make sure your audience is looking at something if it's going to be quick. So I don't have a problem with that. But I saw the light flickering and I wasn't thinking about the mirror per se. I was just thinking, oh, they're going to notice the light and they're going to react to the light. But then the thing shut up in the mirror and I was like, oh, I kind of wasn't expecting that. So that one was another really good one. But the other one, any time after that there was a mirror, a dark doorway, I knew what was going to happen. And so, like you said, the magic just kind of went away for that.
This is more of a question. I don't know that I really thought of it too much while I was watching this movie, but were they filming? So they're filming a movie of some kind. Why were they filming all of the time then? Did they ever give a reason for that?
No, not up until they started catching the activity.
Okay,
then it was like, oh, now we're like, because the one guy even says, oh, because now we're ghost hunters. Like, but up until then, not really. To your point, no.
But eventually, yes.
Yes, it takes about half the movie though, right? Because that's way later. Into the film. So no, to your point, I don't think so.
And there's like the huge. I mean, this is definitely one of those movies where, like, if this was a real life situation, the number of things you'd be screaming and saying you would never do that. That's stealing the whatever book of whatever
maniac character.
Oh yeah, that guy stealing for no reason. Clearly everyone's warning them to leave. The first night I saw that train of people with candles outside my window, bye.
I'm out.
Gone. Like, that's
totally agree.
I mean, and they're there too long. Like, I think that's part of what made this movie feel long. It's like in almost any other situation, it would stuff had to happen faster to make it believable that they were still there when the stuff started happening. They were there too long, I think.
Well, and the other thing that I kind of like struggled with was the logic of the situation. So like, okay, we've got the people telling them to leave. We've got the people that don't want them to leave because now they have like a sacrificial
Yep.
you know, someone to use. But my question is, so what would they have done if strangers hadn't come into the town? Would they have just picked someone else to sacrifice, or what? What would have been, you know, like I watched this Swedish found footage movie. It was so good. I'm trying to remember
Oh,
what it was called.
why aren't we talking about it right now?
I can't remember what it's called.
Oh boy.
It's like it means like shopping day or something in Swedish. Whatever that is the name of it. But
Okay.
there is, without giving too much away, there is a thing that's going on, but it has to be outsiders. It cannot be people from the town. But that's very well explained. And
Yeah.
so you're just like, okay, like it makes sense. But here it's like, so what would they have done? Like I guess my point is like, why these people?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Because if they're outsiders, somebody knows that they're traveling there. Wouldn't that bring more attention to
They
the
don't. Yeah, they don't say there have to be. I mean, because presumably the family that all the lore is about, Aurore, she's
is
from
a
the
part of
town,
it?
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe it doesn't have to be outside. It just was because they were there and it was convenient. Maybe it was going to be somebody from the town and to save somebody. I don't know.
Because then my other thought of that was then the townspeople should have been like, oh, please stay because better you than me, right?
Maybe.
I don't
So
know.
so
I
was there
don't,
a so there was a supernatural aspect to this
yes,
because of the ghost we're seeing.
yes.
But okay, so there's that scene where the guy we don't really like, the klepto, is sleeping in the street.
Oh my
Okay,
God. They're
so
waiting on the light to.
yeah, did he actually just fall asleep, or did something happen to him there? Because to me that was unclear.
So to me, they just painted it like he just got too high and he fell asleep. Because he makes the comment
Oh,
when he wakes
okay,
up, he's like, "That's some good stuff" or something to that. Because that's
right.
the other thing. They smoke and drink like a lot,
But that,
and
but
I guess that was the
he's
point.
like he was like he was like he was acting like he was
I thought
dead.
he
Like,
died.
yeah, I mean
I also don't think overall that scene added anything.
that was weird. I was just confused. Yeah.
Because you're like, the car comes down the road, and then we see the light flicker, and it's a different light, and it's only for a second, and it's not at the time that it was supposed to. And then the guy's almost dead, but I guess not really dead. It's
Yeah.
like, it's kind of, so there's a lot of parts that are cohesive that worked fine. But then there's parts that just, if they'd been left
Weird.
out, the overall story probably would have been a little stronger.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
You're making me like this movie less and less, but
I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna change my rating. So I'm sticking with it.
So, well, okay. So moving back to like some positives, one scene that I really, really liked was the tarot card reading.
That was really good.
I really like that. First of all, I'm super interested in tarot, like super interested. I started learning how to do it. I have like books about it, a deck. I think tarot is like such a cool thing. And so when that scene came up, I legitimately, because she says, I forget the main girl's name, but she says, isn't there only supposed to be one death card in the deck? And they get three, and there's three of them, and you're just immediately like, I got chills. Like that part was so effective, and it had no flashing ghosties, right? Mm-hmm. Like no random things that like, just it just they got stranded, and it made sense because of the snow. They found the closest house, just so happens, which the supernatural or the superstitious spiritual stuff makes sense because of all the stuff we learned later about the town in general, but I really loved that scene. I thought the acting in that scene was really strong. The concern when the cards got flipped, they start out really easy, like, oh, it means your filming will come to completion, and then she's like, oh, death. I thought that was really good. I liked it.
Yeah, it was very good. So I mean, like, yeah, I just liked there are a lot of problems, and I feel like this is definitely a movie. You can nitpick, but like I feel like it has all the, again, I've said this before, when I'm sitting down to watch a found footage movie, there's certain sort of boxes I'm hoping to check.
Yeah.
And this does check a lot of those. And I am a fan of suspending disbelief as much as I can. And you have to suspend it a lot for this movie. But
yeah, no,
it's good. It's fun. It's good. It's solid found footage, I think. Although too long and too many flashing ghosties.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I really think cutting the runtime and consolidating some things storyline wise would have really made this a lot stronger. Yeah, I think, and yeah, too many ghosties. And we talked about this so many times. There has to be the balance of seeing and not seeing, because the more we see, the less impressive it becomes. Because, like you said, then you start to pick it apart. Okay, well, that didn't look that great, or oh, that's not as cool as it was the first time. Like, I thought, and what did you? Okay, so what did you think? I was going to ask you this. What did you think of the ending overall? Because I feel like, yeah, I think the ending is actually probably one of the strongest points of the whole film.
I agree, and I think one thing with found footage movies is very often the endings are either sudden or open-ended, or what did I just see? Wait, it's over, like that kind of feel. That is not the feel for the ending of this movie.
No,
at the end of this movie, you know exactly what happened. I mean, basically, and it's very visible. The disgusting stuff that happens at the end of this movie. But I did think it was a strong ending, and it was definitely like an intense ending.
I totally agree. I think that I will say this. The ending is a big reason that this got as high as it did for me, because the ending really solidified the strengths that these filmmakers had. Because first of all, and I will say this, I knew that friend, that girl that she knew. I was like, do not trust her.
Did you? Oh, you're better than me.
I said out loud when I was watching this, I was like, that B word is like not trustworthy. I knew right away. And so when she shows up, I was like, oh, I knew it. But I will say that even though I guessed that, it didn't really take away from anything, because that scene at the end when she's like, oh, your friend's in here, the amount of calm that woman has when she says that is so unsettling. And then you go inside and he's in there.
I knew then at that point, obviously I was like, no, don't go in there. Like, don't.
Yeah, if you didn't know before, y'all should be leaving.
Right.
Yeah, so that I loved the ending. The ending, the tarot scene, the relationships, and the genuine, like the acting and the lore are the strengths in this.
Yeah.
And I really think, like you said, getting rid of a few of those flash ghost scenes, and pulling in that time and making it more concise, I think would have been like a total game changer for this movie.
Chop off the scene with him just like lying in the road.
Yeah, take that out. Take out even some of the scenes where they're in the town. Like, how many times do we need to see them go to the store?
That was it was like that kind of stuff, like repetitive, right? They never really moved on from that. Yeah.
The movie we watched, The Trail, had stuff like that, where it was like pictures of or video clips of peacocks, and we were like, okay, like it's just too much of the extra side stuff.
Yes. Was it The Trail? The Trail. Was that the Bigfoot? Was that the Bigfoot?
No, that's the Malaysian.
Oh, right. Yes. They were just, you're right. They were just like driving down the road.
And it was like weird, like things that
Yes, I did not.
Shot. I get it, but it comes across. It doesn't integrate itself into the story. It just comes across as filler, which then as viewers are just like, okay, so.
And like, so like a movie like Blair Witch, they have filler, but it's all at the beginning. Like it's all when they're in the town at the beginning.
You're absolutely right. Yep.
Whereas this was like, scary stuff's happening. Now let's go back to the town. And this guy's going to steal something from the convenience store.
That's the pattern. Something scary. They go into town to get snacks. He steals something. Something scary. Snacks, steal. Scary, snacks, steal. That is the pattern that this follows.
Maybe they weren't even looking for an outsider, but this dude kept stealing stuff. So
they were like, off with his head.
Spoiler.
Oh my God, that's so true.
Yeah.
That part when he took the dang rosary,
Oh
I
my
would
God.
have been so done with him. Her reaction, that was the only time I felt like they were not mad enough. She was like, "You didn't." And I'm like, I would be so, you know what?
So he steals the rosary, he steals the book, he
And
steals
alcohol.
a beer. Yeah. Like, I think they were most upset when he stole the beer.
Yeah, the guy friend, because there was somebody on the other side of him
Dude,
that
what
was
are you
from the
doing?
town.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What a klepto. Yeah, so
Curse of Aurore.
Aurore.
Aurore. I can't say it.
Yes. So it's on Tubi.
It's
It is a fun watch. I didn't hate this one at all. I mean, this was not like, other one. This one was fun.
yeah, definitely fun.
So if you like
Go
haunted
watch it.
and found footage, you can watch Curse of Aurore on Tubi.
And what are we watching next Friday?
Oh, I'm excited about this one. So when Tom and I did the found footage live a billion years ago, one of the movies that was on the list because I had not seen it, or was it after that? Maybe it was after that. I can't remember. But was a found footage movie called The Borderlands, aka Final Prayer. It's got two names. I don't know why. So we did a revisit of that, and we're going to talk about that next week.
Okay, let's go. Yeah. See you then.
Enjoy your weekend. Have a great week coming up, and we'll see you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye.